Before we dive into the main topic, please just take a moment to subscribe, turn on the notification bell, like this deep dive, and maybe leave a comment.
Your engagement really does help us continue to bring these toolkits to life.
Okay, so let's get into it. We've all had that moment.
Oh, yeah.
You're reading a dense report, listening to a high-level conversation, maybe just watching the news, and bam, you hit a word you've never seen before.
And if you're trying to read for rapid comprehension, stopping to look it up is
It
just...
breaks your concentration. It completely derails your flow.
That disruption is exactly what we need to avoid, especially for, listeners operating at a B2 level or higher where reading speed and efficiency are just paramount.
So our mission today is to provide a full toolkit, a systematic sort of 4-part checklist to bypass that dictionary lookup, at least on the first pass.
Right.
We're synthesizing strategies for working out meaning from context. And this isn't just a basic tip. This is a deep dive into the mechanics of how language really works.
We're breaking it down into 4 distinct types of clues.
Visual and background, textual and grammatical, structural, and then linguistic. It's all about helping you gain that knowledge quickly.
And as you said, if you're studying or working at that B2 level or higher, this skill is, well, it's non-negotiable.
Why is that?
Because it trains your critical reading and listening skills. You stop being a passive receiver of information.
You become an active analyst.
Exactly. You're analyzing the structure of the language, the whole conceptual feel of the text. It turns every single thing you read into a learning opportunity. It's the ultimate defense against information overload.
Okay, so let's start where the immediate information lives, the environment around the word.
Decoding the immediate context.
You have to be, I think, aggressive about scanning the whole picture, not just the single sentence the word is in.
And that scanning starts with what's easiest, which is often not even text.
The visual stuff.
The visual input, yeah. If you're watching a TV report about, say, an environmental disaster, the footage is already filtering the vocabulary for you.
You see images of burning forests.
Right. So the unfamiliar word will almost certainly relate to fire or ecology or government intervention. The visuals narrow that semantic field instantly.
And your own background knowledge, that's also a huge part of it. It acts like a powerful cognitive filter.
A very powerful one.
So if you already knew, maybe from a headline that morning, that there was a big earthquake in Tokyo, then hearing some technical term in a broadcast later on requires almost no mental effort. Your prior knowledge just fills in the gap.
It makes earthquake easy to grasp so you can focus your attention on the words that are genuinely new to you.
Okay, so once we've used the external world, we zoom in.
To the textual neighborhood, the words immediately surrounding the term, these are often the most reliable clues.
I think the example often used for this is just perfect. Tara picked one tall yellow gladiolus to put in her new vase.
Right. And you may have never seen the word gladiolus before in your life.
Doesn't matter.
And you don't need to. The key insight here is how quickly the surrounding words, the descriptions, the actions, they establish such a strong field that it locks the word into a category.
It's a simple formula, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's something that could be picked.
It's tall and yellow.
And it's put in a vase. The context just forces the word into the category of a type of flower.
There's virtually no room for doubt.
But that works great for concrete things like flowers. What if the word is abstract?
Ah, that's when the third type of context clue becomes your best friend, the grammatical clue.
This is where you realize grammar isn't just about dusty old rules.
Not at all. It's about reliable context. A word's position in a sentence gives it a job, and that job immediately limits its potential meanings.
Okay, give us an example.
Sure, take the sentence. Alejandra is very superstitious and would never walk under a ladder.
Okay, superstitious.
You don't know it, but look at its function. It comes after very, and it describes a quality of Alejandro.
So it has to be an adjective.
It must be an adjective, and because you know that, you know it defines a characteristic, not a thing or an action.
And that's the core distinction. Knowing it's an adjective cuts down the possibilities to, what, maybe 5% of the entire vocabulary?
Exactly. Or, consider this one. Mike came gingerly down the stairs, trying to avoid all the broken glass.
So you picture him moving carefully.
Right. The word gingerly is describing how he did the action, how he came down the stairs. Its position next to the verb came means it must be an adverb.
That is the aha moment. The syntax of the sentence, the grammar, is maybe the most reliable clue of all.
It is, because it tells you the word's fundamental role. Is it a quality, a thing? the manner of an action. That gives you immediate access to its conceptual category.
And that's what saves you in high-stakes reading. You might not get the perfect dictionary definition,
But you get enough meaning to maintain your comprehension, to keep that flow.
so if the immediate neighborhood is a bit sparse on clues, we can zoom in even further.
Right into the internal architecture of the word itself.
This brings us to leveraging the internal structure of English.
English is like a linguistic construction kit. It often builds complex ideas by just combining simple parts you already know.
We see this most clearly in compounds, which are often just two words kind of mashed together.
Yeah.
The classic example is headscarf. Head, scarf.
So it's pretty easy to work out that it's a scarf worn on the head.
Easy enough.
Yeah.
But for an advanced learner, the real skill is in spotting the variations, right?
Absolutely. Sometimes a compound is obvious, like blackboard. But what about the difference between a greenhouse, a building for plants, and a greenhouse?
A house that's painted green.
Recognizing that difference, whether it's a fused compound or just two separate words, that's a high-level structural skill.
That's a great challenge for a B2 mind. It makes you question the word boundary itself.
And this structural analysis goes deeper into morphology, the real building blocks.
Prefixes and suffixes.
Yes, this is so critical that entire sections of linguistic resources are dedicated just to this. A prefix or a suffix acts like a structural cheat code.
How so?
Well, by knowing just a few common elements, you can unlock hundreds of words. Take the prefix un.
It almost always makes something negative.
Right, unhappy, unacceptable. It's a meaning modifier.
And on the other end, suffixes.
Suffixes are reliable category identifiers. If you see immolation or immolity on the end of a word,
It's a noun?
it's almost always a noun. So even if the root word is completely opaque to you, you can still place it.
So you can identify the prefix as, say, negative, and the suffix as indicating a noun.
And you can form a high confidence hypothesis. Okay, I think this word is a negative noun related to. The structure gives you vital information from inside the word.
All right, let's shift our focus outward now.
Ah.
Section 3, global connections.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm a multilingual listener, how do I use my other languages without falling into some obvious traps?
This is a huge, often underutilized benefit. I mean, if your first language is Latin-based or Germanic,
You can see a lot of familiar-looking words.
so many. These are called cognates. English is a linguistic melting pot. It borrows from everywhere, so leveraging any language you know can give you a shortcut.
But, and this is a big but,
This is where we need the critical warning.
the infamous false friends.
Exactly. Not all words that look or sound similar mean the same thing, and this is a major trap for advanced learners.
Why for advanced learners specifically?
Because when you reach B2, you're confident. You're comfortable with that feeling of familiarity, and that very comfort can lead to sloppy assumptions.
A failure of critical verification.
Precisely.
Can you give us a really stark example, one that shows how high the stakes can be?
The German one is chillingly effective because the words are spelled identically. The English word gift.
A present, something nice.
Right. But in German, gift means poison.
Wow.
Now, imagine you're reading a technical manual or a legal document and you make that assumption. The difference, dangerous.
That's not just an amusing little mistake. In a professional context, that could be catastrophic.
It could be. And that's why we pause here. For our listeners, the lesson isn't just about avoiding funny errors. It's about employing critical verification. You must question that automatic assumption your brain makes.
Always question what you think you know.
Always. It's the highest level of linguistic humility.
Okay, so that brings us to the final step. We've gone through the checklist, context, structure, linguistic roots, and we have a strong hypothesis.
You've done the internal work.
Now, how do we articulate that understanding to someone else? Explaining the unknown.
This is where those B2 to C1 communication skills really shine. You don't just want to say, I don't know. You want to show you've processed the clues.
And the sources give us some really useful phrases for this.
They do. Reliable expressions for explaining what a word might mean when you don't have that dictionary definition handy. They let you process the definition out loud.
So going back to the gladiolus example, we figured out it was the type of flower. We classified it.
Correct. So for that, you could use a phrase for categorization. You'd lead with, it's a kind of.
It's a kind of flower.
Or a bird, a musical instrument, a building. It's perfect for when you know the broad type, but not the specific subtype.
Or for an analogy, you might say something like, it's probably something a bit like a chair.
That's great for similarity or for defining abstract concepts by comparing them to concrete ones. And if the context pointed to its use, you can define its function.
It's got to be something you use for painting pictures.
Mhm.
or cleaning the kitchen floor.
But the most important part for an advanced listener is showing your level of certainty.
Right. You can't just state a definition you're not sure about. You have to include that hedging.
Exactly. That's where you use specific language. I think it must mean, if you're very confident, maybe based on strong grammatical clues.
Or I think it could mean if the clues were a bit more ambiguous.
Precisely. So these phrases aren't just polite conversation, they're tools for articulating your critical thinking process. You're showing your partner that you've run the word through your mental checklist.
It's a key marker of sophisticated linguistic processing.
It shows you can negotiate meaning even when you're uncertain.
So, to summarize our deep dive today, you now have a 4-part systematic process for decoding an unknown word.
Turning you into an active linguistic detective.
First, check the immediate context: visual, background, neighboring words, and grammar. Second, check the English structure. Look for compounds. Third, analyze morphology. Use prefixes and suffixes.
And finally, fourth, check for foreign language similarity, but keep that false friends warning sign flashing in your mind.
The practical application is immediate.
Every single time you encounter a new word, you now have a checklist to run. It turns language learning from this passive collection of dictionary entries into a very active, immediate process.
And speaking of those linguistic traps, that brings us to our final provocative thought for you to mull over.
We talked about the danger of false friends, like gift and gift.
And how they expose our assumptions.
So here's the question. If the context fails you, and a word looks exactly like a word you know, maybe from your own language, how often do you truly stop to verify it?
Or do you just let familiarity breed error?
That lack of verification, that moment where you choose assumption over critical scrutiny, that is perhaps the single biggest hidden pitfall in advanced language acquisition. Something to think about.
Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe, turn on the notification bell, like, and leave a comment to support the channel.